Okay, before we start adding and subtracting rational expressions, let's review how to add or subtract rational numbers. So to start here, I have 1/5 plus 3/5. So if we recall, when we add fractions or subtract fractions, we have to have the same denominator. So in this case, we have our 5, so we're good there. So what we can do is add our numerators. So 1/5 plus 3/5 is simply 1 plus 3 gives us our 4, and our denominator would stay the same, right? We could have a visual of this. If I have 1/5, right, plus 3/5 of the same size, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the same same size piece of 5 pieces to make a whole. So let's go into an example of when our denominators are different. So our next one here, I have 3/8 plus 5/16. So now our denominators are different, right? So we have to make them the same. So I'm going to suggest writing them vertically instead of horizontally, and really that's just preference. But when we add fractions or subtract fractions, that would be my recommendation. So we have a denominator of 8 and a denominator of 16. So we need to figure out a number that both 8 and 16 go into, and preferably a number that's the smallest. So we want to find the least common denominator between 8 and 16. And the first thing you should always do is always ask yourself if the smaller denominator goes in the larger. So since 8 goes into 16, we can choose 16 as our new denominator, because we know that 16 goes into itself and 8 goes into 16. Now we just need to figure out what that missing piece is. Okay, so 3/8 is the same as how many 16ths? Well, we can look at the relationship here. How many 8s go into 16 would be 2, because 8 times 2 gives us 16. So what we would do to the denominator, we would also do to the numerator. So here we have 3 times 2, which gives us 6. Here 16 goes into itself once, and we have to do the same thing to the numerator, so 5 times 1 is 5. Now that we have a common denominator, now we have 6/16 plus 5/16. Now we can just add our numerators. So 6 plus 5 gives us 11 out of 16. So we have 11/16. I'd like you guys to try to pause the video and try number 3 here of 1/5 plus 3/10. So pause it and give it a try, and then when you get your answer, unpause it, and we'll do the problem together. Okay. All right, so we have 1/5 plus 3/10. So just like our last example, we need a common denominator. And 5 goes into both 10, and 10 goes into 10. 5 goes into 10 twice, and 1 times 2 is 2. 10 goes into itself once, so 3 times 1 is 3. So here we have 2 plus 3 is 5 out of 10. The denominator stays the same when we add and subtract. So we have 5/10, which is absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with this answer, but we can reduce it. So we have to ask ourselves if there's any factors that go into both 5 and 10 this evenly. So 5 goes into itself once, and 5 goes into 10 twice. So we have a half there. So we're going to use this knowledge of finding a common denominator and start adding and subtracting fractions to start adding and subtracting rational expressions.